Mirror symbolism. Symbolism in the Order of the Eastern Star, just remember. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful of all? It is said that the evil stepmother of the Snow White story had a mirror that spoke the truth. We all know the rest of the story. Undoubtedly, the symbolism of the mirror is part of numerous stories that we have heard since we were children, possibly generating some fears in us. Let's remember, in childhood, it was very common to experience a certain fear of the image projected by the mirror. Above all, on dark nights, when the glass reflected a silent and sinister darkness that confronted us with the possibility of seeing a being from the underworld. Although the fact of not seeing it but knowing it there added more horror to the matter, it was like a disturbing promise that could eventually turn our fears into certainty and show us its horrendous reality. I imagine that many will remember the Mirror of Erised, the mysterious mirror that appeared in the novel Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, discovered by Harry in an abandoned hall at Hogwarts School. This magnificent mirror had an inscription which read, "I show you not your face, but your heart's desire." The story states that one Christmas night, Harry found the aforementioned mirror and visited it for 3 consecutive nights. Fascinated by the polished surface, Harry lost track of time, because in the magical object he glimpsed himself accompanied by his longed-for family. But the mirror hid another amazing mystery. Dumbledore, the head wizard, had hidden the Philosopher's Stone within it. Only someone who wanted to find the stone but not use it would be able to obtain it. The symbolism of the mirror is very old. Perhaps it was used to transmit encouraging messages since the human being discovered its reflection in bodies of water. The mirror is an optical system made up of a flat or curved polished surface, which has the ability to reproduce the reflections of the visible world in its formal reality. Mirrors have evolved and have become the utilitarian objects that adorn our homes and businesses. As a symbol, they are present in our traditions. For example, Christianity that points to man as a creature made in the image of the Supreme Being, that is, as a reflection of God Himself. In our star, this symbolism is associated with the figures of the associate matron and associate patron, because they reflect the officials in the East, but they do not have the temporal power and the authority required to act in superior functions. Like a mirror reflection, they look similar, but they are not the same. The mirror is a symbol that alludes to the imagination. It is related to the moon, water, and silver. It is said to suggest the psyche and the astral world. It is a symbol of apparent reality, because if we look closely in the mirror, we can see that the image shown is not identical, because everything reflected is inverted and has no force in the real world. The mirror shows us a reality that is difficult to understand, of a parallel universe that cannot be manifested in our material universe. It reveals to us 2 different universes that coexist respecting their spaces, but that are ordered according to their own universal laws, which are not debatable by any proper inquirer. In this sense, many novels, myths, or stories have developed around the mirror, such as the one narrated in the story of Alice Through the Looking Glass, which shows us two universes that coexist and in which Alice travels. It is important to remember here that Alice's wonderful journey is guided by a set of rules that will keep her on the true path. But this will be the subject of another program. Like all symbols, the mirror has an ambivalent character. It contains opposite meanings. That is, it can allude to or have negative or positive connotations. On the positive side, the mirror promotes contemplation, self-knowledge, recognizing our own fragility, seeking our true identity without subterfuge, although certainly we run the risk of being fascinated, like what happened to Narciso, who fell in love with his reflection, allowing himself to be trapped by death. The symbolism of the mirror appears as an attribute in the oldest myths and ceremonies scattered throughout the world. In Egypt, thousands of years ago, the priests used in their ceremonies a polished gold mirror with the shape of a disc to reflect the first rays of dawn. It is also said that Pythagoras had a magic mirror that pointed towards the moon to see the future. Pliny affirms that the Romans used mirrors of a black stone called obsidian attached to the walls. Pliny expresses in this regard, the image reflected by these mirrors look like a shadow in which the features of the object are seen but not the colors. It is a rather dark representation of the object. With this information, we can be sure that on nights with a full moon, these walls would offer a ghostly reflection. There was a time when mirrors were associated with the dark or magical arts. It is not surprising that being objects with a peculiar characteristic financially inaccessible to the common person, they could have aroused suspicion. The divinatory practices associated with mirrors were persecuted by the church, although the chronicles mention kings and princes who tried to foretell the future using the properties of mirrors, such as Catherine de' Medici and Henry IV, who had magic mirrors that they frequently consulted. In 1326, Pope John XXII threatened to excommunicate those who practiced the art of divination through mirrors, as it was widely believed that demons sometimes found refuge in these objects. In addition, for the Renaissance, the mirror was a symbol of vanity and the ephemerality of beauty. Many thought that the soul could be seen in the reflection. Perhaps it is the reason why the vampires of the 15th century were not reflected in mirrors, as they were said to have no soul. Some think that in a preponderantly ritual aspect, the mirror represents an enigma, a door of difficult access, which could lead them to an unknown dimension or a space that they perceive as terrifying. The mirror exhibits on its surface whoever risks standing in front of it, and since each person is unique, only he or she can see what the mirror manifests at a given time and position. However, it is likely that the observer does not perceive the reality shown, but is paralyzed by the most obvious superficiality. From another point of view, we can appreciate that each human being in a certain way is a reflection of another, or of one of the aspects of his life, be they physical, psychological, or spiritual, with which perhaps he is not pleased and should change. Let's meditate on a perfect day. The surface of a lagoon reflects a beautiful sky without shadows. Likewise, the tranquility of our conscience is projected in the mirror. Many say that the eyes are the mirror of the soul because they always reveal what our hearts keep. A metaphysical mirror is very similar to a physical one. The more polished the surface, the sharper the image it projects. If, on the other hand, passions, bad thoughts, or actions cloud the mirror, the image will appear diffused, dirty, as if covered in dust, distorting the projection of its observer, running the risk of being trapped in a terrible labyrinth of mirrors. Through time, mirrors, this includes analogous means like crystal balls, water glasses, pearls, precious stones, have been considered magical symbols in many cultures for their ability to reflect. Above all, the crystal that covers them alludes to spiritual perfection and purity. The more transparent the glass, the better it fulfills its function of being an intermediary between the visible and invisible world. Perhaps this is the reason why some attribute mysterious powers to it. Will we be ready to look at that mirror? Terrible and fascinating at the same time. Look for our true face and be certain that what is projected is the true image of our being? Everyone must answer that question.